Bienvenidos y welcome to the Biz Bruja podcast, where reclaiming our powerful intuition, our sacred medicina, embracing our magic and healing ancestral patterns, invoke powerful creations in our own well-being, our lives, familias, community, and our businesses. Remembering that our businesses are so important at this time. I'm the creatrix of this blogcast, the Biz Bruja herself, Vanessa Codorniu, a modern-day bruja, fourth-generation psychic medium, clinical hypnotist, energy healer, and soul biz mentor and coach. An Argentine-American who started reading adults at 16, became a professional intuitive at 22, and now guides creatives, intuitives, healers, and entrepreneurs to break through fears, connect to the practical power of their intuition so they can serve the world powerfully. Hello, everyone. Bienvenidos. I am so excited today for this conversation. I met this beautiful woman last year when we were both on a panel discussion, and then I don't know what happened. We were sharing, there were tears, we connected, and then I bumped into her again, and we're like, oh my God, we got to do this. So por favor, and please, everyone, open your hearts for Hattie B. McCarter. Hattie, you're here. Yay.
Yay. Thank you.
I'm so glad.
You.
We're going to go deep. We're going to talk. Maybe we'll cry. Who knows? Maybe we'll laugh. But before we go in, I definitely want to read this beautiful woman's bio. You know, as we live, vamos creciendo, as we grow, our story gets longer. There's more to tell. I had to shrink it, but you'll see it longer in the body of the episode. So Hattie B. McCarter is a certified executive in health diversity with over 17 years of experience in diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and belonging, along with 25 years of public speaking with 8+ years in human resources and recruitment. Originally from Enterprise, Alabama. I didn't know about Enterprise, but there you go. Enterprise, Alabama. Hattie holds a master's degree in rehabilitation counseling from Alabama State University. She later moved to Pennsylvania to further her career in DEI. Hattie's work has earned recognition, including being named a trendsetter and trailblazer by Penn Live and receiving the DEI Trailblazer Award in 2023 from the National Coalition of 100 Black Women, Inc. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know I had to shorten that, but that's at the point.
I appreciate it.
You have so much, and the first question that really comes to heart is, when did you know that you wanted to work? Because I think, DEI, inclusion, belonging, that's all service. Mm-hmm, it's really like kind of a traditional thing that our mothers did and our abuelas and grandmothers did. But now it's like a job. When were you attracted to, or when did you find the need, or when were you really like, this is what I'm meant to do? The sacred work that you're doing?
That is a really good question. And as I was beginning to kind of dive into like how many years I've been doing this work, he is a good friend of mine, a brother, but he also became a mentor, Dr. Jason Gines. He used to work at Penn State University, and I was telling him all the things that I was doing. And he was like, I was like, well, I only got about maybe 3 or 4 years. And he was looking at my resume and he was like, sis, you've been doing this for a very, very long time. But it wasn't I didn't have the words to articulate all the work that I was doing. But I will say, when I transitioned here to Pennsylvania and started working, I used to work for the Office of Oak Rehab, and I worked there for almost 10 years and then transitioned to another state agency. But it wasn't until like things really started to impact me as a Black woman, and I began to uncover, as I teach sometimes, about that onion. And with the onion, it is the funkiest thing ever, right? But you can saute it, you can slap it, flip it, rub it down. Oh no, right? But it's still gonna be this onion, and I had to peel back those layers. So as I began to peel back those layers, I was just like, wow, like if I can do this within myself, and helping people lead with humanity, right? And having that lens, then I can be able to teach this and to be able to cultivate this space where people actually can be truly authentically themselves. Doesn't matter if you're Black, white, Asian, doesn't matter if you have a disability or a veteran. It's like being able to walk in your true authenticity is something that I strive for a very, very long time. And being from Enterprise, Alabama, I wish the person that I am now, I wish I can go back to little Hattie and just be like, don't worry about anything or anybody. You are beautiful. Your skin is beautiful. Your smile is beautiful. Your hair is beautiful. Your body is beautiful. If I could just go back to her and help her to articulate all of the trauma that she went through, I wouldn't say I would be even better than where I am now, but like some of the L's that I took maybe probably wouldn't have happened. But that's when I really started to say, like, this work is my purpose, because it was easy for me, right? I didn't have to, like, things just started just to become natural, the connections that I made. And because of what I went through, it helped me to be a storyteller for those who identify as me, but just also just for people who are really just trying to be equitable, right? Just be a good human being. And so I want to say back in 2016 is when it like really clicked for me.
Wow. And I love that you pointed out a couple of things. One, that our calling, our purpose is easy. Maybe not, working it out or getting hired in it, but it is natural and in alignment with us already. It is part of our nature. I believe that as well. And the fact that you were already doing a work that you didn't have the words for, because I found that within my own work, or you're doing certain work, but you don't have the words for it yet because, our society, our world hadn't evolved to that yet. So I'm so glad that you were able to work with someone at Penn State who was able to point that out to you. Oh, yeah. And as you stepped into this work, how did you, like, leaving Enterprise, coming to Pennsylvania? I mean, it was a culture shock for me, like a diversity that we've talked about and bitched about and, conversed about. But for you personally, like, and I live in Harrisburg. I don't know if you're around the area, but I know where you are. Because we talked about, how did that move, like, affect you as a Black woman, as a professional woman, as a spiritual woman? Like, how did... was it stressful? Then it fell into place? Like,
you know what, Vanessa, first and foremost, that is such a loaded question, right? We could be here for like 3 more hours. I will say, being from Enterprise, Alabama, so you have Birmingham, you have Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Montgomery, then you got Enterprise. So we're like an hour and 15 minutes away from Florida. And so when I tell people, like, I'm from the South, like, I'm from the dirty, dirty South, like, we are there where you wake up in the morning, you smelling chicken coops, there's no buses, there's no Uber, like the things that they have now. We just got a Starbucks maybe about a year ago, just got a Chick-fil-A maybe about 5 years ago. So like the things that I experience here when I go back home, I'm like, oh, we have this, we have that. Like, I'm so fascinated because growing up we didn't. But it was a huge transition for me because I remember my professor, shout out to Dr. Henderson, now Wilson, who is also my mentor and a good friend of mine. She kept trying to tell me, like, look, you fixing to get ready to graduate with your master's in voc rehab. You may not find a job here in Alabama. And I was like, girl, please, I just got married. Like, I'm not fixing to be doing all of this. And she was like, well, Pennsylvania, they have a really good voc rehab program. Start you off, it's state, good benefits. And I was like, are there any Black people in Pennsylvania? I said, because if there's no Black people, then I just cannot go. And she was like, there's Black people there. And then I was like, is there soul food? Do they have grits? What's the weather like? And then when I figured out, like, I was like, oh, they got snow? I was like, oh, no, ma'am, can't do that. We don't have that in Alabama, right? Now they do, but it's not as bad. And so I remember I was a family support worker. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, I got billable hours. I'm just to make this money. We just got married. We had a negative $300 something in our checking account. My parents were still helping us out at this moment. And so I told my husband, I was like, look, don't even worry about it. Like, I got you. I'm going to get paid next week. We're going to be fine. Cause I know my check going to be like $1,200, $1,500. And so got my check. And I was just like, where's my money? Right? Where's the hours that I bill for? When I looked at the deposit, it was, I will never forget this amount. It was $17.36. I went back to my supervisor at the time and I was like, where is all my billable hours? She was like, well, one, you did it wrong. And she said, two, some of the hours that you put in are not billable. I was like, oh, okay. Don't even worry about it. I went back to my mentor. I said, look, the application that you was trying to give me, I'm going to need that. And so I applied, we moved, and the sky was the limit. But when I came here, I didn't know anything about the Plain community. I had no idea who they were, what that was. You see these things that go on in media, TV, Children of the Corn. That was like, and I feel bad in saying that because it's such a negative mindset, right? But that's the only image that I had. So coming up here, living where I live, it is a predominantly white area. It is very country, but there are a lot of diversity within this area. But I didn't really get a true essence of diversity until I started working in Harrisburg. And I was just like, okay, this is where my people are at, the Singers Lounge, which if you don't know anything about Harrisburg, you got to go to the Singers Lounge. Like Eris and the people who sing with her, Phoebe, they are amazing. Nova is amazing. Anyway, shout out to them. But I was beginning to get integrated into that space, and I felt welcome in a place where there were people who were walking down the street that looked like me. So I started to intentionally integrate myself into a lot of community things. But the transition from Alabama to the North is very hard because in Alabama, racism is in your face, right? You know what it is. You know where to go, where not to go. They teach you very young about these sundown towns. And so I was already aware of those type of spaces. So when I came up here, I was just I was lost for words because you would experience some type of ism. And then you're like, well, maybe that wasn't it, because they still talk to me about, certain things. They ask about my family, blah, blah, blah. And then you get hit with these microaggressions. You're like, no, I thought we were cool, or, thought you understood. We was on the same page. So as a Black woman living here, I had to kind of really take a step back and not always call people my friend, not always try to do all these things for people. I just had to be more aware, right? Because in the South, you know what it is, because it's embedded in you. Like I remember my dad used to tell me every time I used to go to school, he's like, remember, you're still Black. And I'm like, I know that. Why do you keep telling me that? And it wasn't until I got older, he was telling me that because yes, you are out here, you are young, you're doing all the things, but you can't do what everybody else does. There's always going to be a magnifying on you. You always are going to have to work 10 times harder. You're always. And 9 times out of 10, it is probably because of the color of your skin. And I didn't realize that until I got here living in the North, to where I began to experience different forms of trauma, and that reminded me back when I was at home. And so it was a huge eye opener, but I will say that I will not change my decision in coming here. I will not change the things that I went through, because honestly, it has made me who I am today.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so sorry for your experience.
Yeah.
It's, there's like no words, but I think continued education, continued exposure, people listen to this. I know that more people, this is the podcast, it's all over LA, Texas, all, Florida, New York, even some people in Amsterdam, hola, Australia, right, in Australia. But now more people are listening to it in Pennsylvania, and I hope y'all are listening to this. And yes, it's really, I can relate, just in my little space of just like being Latina, which is different from your experience of the microaggressions, and my husband as well. And you were talking about children of the corn. I just want you to know that when I first moved here and I got to the summer and there were all these cornfields and I took out for my family in Miami and I stuck my head out and I screamed, ah! And I showed the corn behind me. And, I feel bad too. But at the same time, I remember when we first got here, I looked up at this little house on the hill somewhere between Harrisburg and Hershey. There's a lot of land and more country. I said to my husband, am I just the weirdo? And I did not watch horror movies, but I was like, am I the only weirdo that feels really stressed to see a little house on top of a hill where there's nobody else? And maybe there's screaming in that basement chained to a pipe. You know what I mean? I'm like, am I a weirdo? And my husband said, I'm from a city too. I'm the same weirdo. We're like, oh, that's why we're married. We're both weird. Like, we'd rather be in a city where people are doing things that we can scream help and somebody will listen. So now that you have been here a while and you say that you wouldn't take it back, even though you've had to deal with a lot, how does your work come in because your work is literally to shift and change and transform what you're experiencing every day.
Right.
So how does that work play out? Like, how do you go into companies, organizations? How do you do your work? And how does that play?
I am a storyteller. Like, I love connecting with people's hearts. And so I consider myself a cultural strategist, right? And culture just, to me, doesn't mean policy. Is meaning finding a strategic way on how we can cultivate this space of humanity. And so my tagline is that we are in the business of mending hearts and shifting mindsets. Because I tell people that once I connect with you here, everything else it won't be smooth sailing, but this is where you establish respect, where you establish trust, where you establish a sense of cultural competency, but also where this is a moment where we have to be vulnerable, but humble at the same time. So it's these pieces that we're putting together to help rebuild this, because this is the most important thing. So once I help organizations and more specifically leaders kind of tap into that vulnerability space, which is hard. And I will say that is one of, not necessarily for their staff, but, leaders sometimes have this disconnect with their people. So we're like, I can't be vulnerable. I can't show you emotions because I have to lead. But as a business owner, but also as an employee, that is one of the things that I look for is like, how do we connect? I don't want to know all your business, but I at least want to know how I connect with you. What are your likes and your dislikes? What drives you, but what also triggers you at the same time? So if I know that I am causing that, then I need to be able to shift that so that your mindset just won't stay in that traditional space. And so I really, truly believe that the start of this work is the heart of this work. It is at our core and who we are. I don't care about numbers. I don't care about policies. I care about people, because people are the ones that are driving all organizations. And I think what is happening right now in this world, like I've never been so stressed and so overwhelmed. And sometimes I find myself enraged because I'm like, people are hurting, people are going through, people don't know what end is up and what is down. Yeah. And it's like right now, there was a guy that I work with. He said something so profound. He said, right now, people are just soldiering their way through. And I'm like, he's absolutely right. We are soldiering our way through this very time of uncertainty, the time where hate trumps love, a time where bigotry is accepted, a time where people just are not being authentic and allowing folks to have a seat at the table. One of my heroes or sheroes is Shirley Chisholm. She was the first African-American woman congresswoman to run for president. And her famous quote is, if you don't have a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. And I tell people that I'm in the business of bringing folding chairs. I want everybody to have a seat. I don't care who you are, what you look like. As long as we get this work done, and if we make money in the process, cool. If not, then it is what it is. But like, there is so much in this world that we can benefit from. And so as I engage with organizations, this is what I'm trying to connect them to. We'll get to the policies and stuff later, but I need you to be able to connect here, because people will work for you if you know them, if you see them, if you respect them, and if you value them. If you have those four things, they're going to be your most productive employees. They don't mind doing overtime because it's like, you know what? My boss, they got me. Mm-hmm. They respect me. So like, I don't mind it. And even if there is some time of where you are uncomfortable having these uncomfortable conversations with each other, you know, at the core that it is not intentional. It is about, okay, I have to correct you in love. I have to correct you so you can be better. And you may not want to stay here, but at least if you do, like, you're better for the next place and the next place, but also to be better for yourself. And so that's how I do this work. And at first I thought I had to be about, you know, going in here, being corporate and all of that. I'm like, it's so not me at all.
I mean, you're just so loving and you're so open-hearted. And, you know, that's, I think, what like connected us when we first met.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think, you know, building a business, we do it with our hearts, we do it with our souls. I mean, there are people who are entrepreneurs who they're like, this is a good idea, I'm going to go invest in that. Mm-hmm. People who are like, here's my money, do that, that's that. Mm-hmm. There's other people who are like, this is something that I want to have. Like, people are like, can you make an app for your business? Can you do that for yourself? And then you don't have to deal with people. I'm like, but why do I want to do that? Like, I can have downloadable programs. But the work that you're doing, the work that I'm doing, we want to be with people.
Absolutely.
That's the thing that's calling us, right? So I love everything that you're sharing. I love how you lead with heart. If you can speak on it, what is one of your, like, what are some of the changes that you've seen from coming in and leading this way? Like with organization or corporate setting or... no names, we don't need, of course.
No. Some of the things that I have seen is that you can tell, first and foremost, I hate it when it's like, oh, just another DEI training. And so I don't even come in like that anymore. I'm like, we're here to do some intersectional work and shift our lens. Like, we're here about people. We're in the people business. I really am a huge advocate of transformational leadership, because if you think of that, that is the umbrella of everything that we are doing and how we are seeing people from an organizational perspective. What was the question? Give me one more time.
About the impact that you saw with the work that you do. Yes.
So you can see, like, when people come in, they're like, oh my God, here's another boring training. But I really make them uncomfortable to where you have to engage. So I'm always asking these type of questions to make you feel like, ugh, did she really just go there? And I'm like, and did, and I'm gonna do it again. But you can tell, like, how the guardrails begin to come down. Right? Especially of those of the dominant culture. And I tell them, like, look, there's going to be some ouch moments as we begin to have these conversations. I said, and if you feel that, raise your hand or wait till we go on break and we can have a one-on-one conversation about it. I was like, but if you are not here if your goal was to come in here and to not be impacted or to not evoke change, then I'm giving you permission to leave.
Oh, I love that.
Pause. And I'm like, here is the door. I said, I've already said this to the people who have reached out to me, that if people don't want to be here, I cannot make them do that, because those are the individuals that are probably, I don't want to say you're bad employees, but those are the individuals that are probably a continuous barrier for your organization. And hopefully if they do get up and leave, then that's going to probably affirm some of the things that you were feeling. And then this is where y'all need to have a conversation, because you can't be in the people business and hate people. I just don't understand it. How
say it again, the people in the back.
I'm just like, how do you do that and you don't want to work with people? I'm like, we work with some clinicians, and I'm like, how is it that, like, look, everybody has their own beliefs, but if this person identifies as trans, it doesn't matter. They just came in for a sinus infection. Work on that. And I'm like, and however they identify, that is their business. That has nothing to do with you.
Right.
They're not coming in here to get counseling. They're not coming in here to get prayer. You don't know their faith level. They're just coming in for a sinus infection. Treat that, right? See them for who they are. They know what they're going through. And I was like, so when we have these conversations and being transparent with them, people begin to be like, oh, you can see the light bulbs go off and them having those cathartic moments. You're like, oh, okay. Or I do that. I did one training and one lady, like, you could tell when people want to wait and talk to you. And she was over there crying. And I was just like, oh, Lord, I do not have the capacity to deal with this today. But I said, you know what? I'm a whole space for her. She was one of the CEOs that I work with, and she was bawling. And I was like, well, was it something that I said? Did I offend you? She was like, no, you just brought a lot of things to the surface for me. And you made me begin to reflect on how I engage with my staff and how I just need to be better. And I said, good. I said, so first step is you acknowledge. Second step is give yourself some grace, right? I said, because that's saying once you know better, you got to do better.
Yes.
I said, so now that you know that, I was like, what are you going to do to shift your heart, to shift your mindset? And I said, you got to be real with yourself. I said, and then I said, there might be some people you may have to ask for forgiveness. And if they give it to you, cool. If they don't, you just have to accept it and move on. I said, but your words and your actions have to align. Us as employees, that's what we watch. You have to be, I'm telling people that you have to be a leader with a mirror. So every time you see your employees, you got to see yourself. Your employees reflect you. Yeah. And that movie, Remember the Titans, with my husband, Denzel Washington. Oh, that man is so fine. Where he was just like, leadership sets the tone. When Bertier and Julius was at the water fountain, he was like, leadership sets the tone. So if you are a leader who doesn't believe in this work, your people not going to want to do it. Exactly. If you are a leader who is narcissistic or has such a high ego or just traditional mindset, that is going to be filtered down through your people.
Yes.
So you have to ask yourself, how do you want people to see you? So when I go in these rooms, I want people to see me for all of me, who I am, and let them know, like, look, I'm just as nervous as you are. I might be angst. There might be something you say that might trigger me. I'm like, but I am in the business of holding space for you. So if we can at least hold that for each other in this hour or 2 hour session, I was like, then we're good. And usually when I say that and I give some agreements or some terms, it's usually fine. Now, I think out of all the people that I said that you can leave, one person left, but they had to go to the bathroom.
I love that. When you give people an option, then they know they have a choice to stay. I love that so much. Thank you for sharing all of this. It's so much insight and it's such needed work. The question I always ask everyone, and I'm so curious for you, what are some of the ancestral patterns that you had to heal, integrate, or transform in order to be who you are? I'll later ask about leaning into the gifts, but right now it's like, what are some of the patterns, Like, I know for me, it was hiding and invisibility, right? And not charging for my gifts, right? Like, oh, you got to get it for free. But, what are some of the ancestral patterns that you feel you've had to heal in order to be who you are today and do the work that you do?
I think, honestly, Vanessa, I really had to accept my Blackness. For so long, we talk about the different levels of racism, but nobody really talks about the internal racism that a lot of Black and brown kids have within themselves. And once again, back then, I didn't even understand what colorism was, right? And knowing of how self-abuse that I was putting on my own self. And then as I gotten older, sometimes I would hear some of the things on how my mom would talk to herself, how my you know what I mean? So this just wasn't something that I picked up. Like, this is generation after generation. And so I really had to re-love me all over. My idea of who I was growing up, like I said, I wish I could go back and be like, girl, snap out of it, right? It's about you. It is your world. Like, love you. Don't worry about anybody else.
Yes.
And so I think once I was able to understand how beautiful I am and how God made me, and get past all of the negative talk, that's when I really began to show up as Hattie. And I can't lie and say that sometimes I don't go back there. But what I do know is that I love me more now. I love me more now than I ever have before. And I'm so grateful for that, because God really put a lot of people in my life to support me and to love me and to uplift me and really embrace me for who I am. I went through a lot with boyfriends, with friends, with people in general. It's like I didn't fit in with my own. And so when I tried to fit in with the white kids, they embraced me, but they only had a limit to that, right? Because maybe I wasn't allowed in their home, or I could only be their friend at school, or we couldn't really talk on the phone. And then my parents was like, we don't, I ain't finna take you over there, because they were trying to protect me. Right. And so all of these things that kind of cultivated this ideology that I had of myself, which was totally wrong. And I tell people, like, Pennsylvania changed me. It made me embrace the beauty that is within, but the beauty that is also on the outside. And I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, I hate that I took for granted my experience at a historical Black college and university, because I was so mentally damaged. And knowing that, my mom graduated from Alabama State, my brother graduated from Alabama State, my niece, she graduated from Alabama State. Now my nephew's going there. And I remember my brother was like, oh, are you going to go to ASU? I was like, oh, God, no, I don't want to be around all those Black people. Not even knowing what I just said. Right. And then full circle, I went to UAB. I got severely sick, almost died, came back, graduated with my bachelor's and my master's. And I'll tell anybody that was one of the best experiences I ever had. And I said, if I would have started there, I probably would have got my doctorate from a historical Black college university. But it took me a long time. So I just think about, like, I'm like, man, I was like, I really hope that I'm making my ancestors proud now. I'm really hoping that I'm making my father proud. He passed away in 2016. And that's kind of where that light bulb went off for me too. Like, okay, he made me take a public speaking class when I was 19. And I was like, I'm never going to do this. Why do you want me to do this? And he's like, you're going to take this class. And in my mind, I'm like, bruh, why? This is not what I want to do. But he saw something in me. He already knew that I was going to be here. And so there are moments to where I think, like, man, Dad, like, I really hope that I am making you so proud. He used to call me his Condoleezza. And I was like, I don't know if I'm Condoleezza. I was like, but, I was like, I'm picking up what you're putting down. But I love I was that. Like, I just wish, so I was like, man, I could just say, girl, knock it off. Get yourself together. But me coming into this space now, like, I so adore me and who I am and how I show up. And it's really because of people like you. It's, one of my good friends, Dr. Amber Sessoms, Ellen, Doris, Claire, it's so many people that I can name who have stood in the gap for me. I would be here all day. But I'm so blessed and honored to have them in my life. I really, really am.
Thank you so much for naming others, because so many times in this modern day, people almost act like they just sprouted out of the ground, full grown. when it does take a village, it does take a community, and it's so important to call out our mentors and call forth our friends in our community. Thank you so much. Gracias for sharing that. And I hope that, for everybody who's listening, especially because of the colorism in South America, across Latin America, we've been colonized. And the self-hate, the internalized self-hate of being part indigenous or being Latino, about bad hair, bad skin, the this, the that, the facial features, and what's good, what's not. And it's heartbreaking. And it's important for us to love ourselves the way we are. And you've done a tremendous thing, because the messages that you got, you had people who love themselves, but you also heard the messages of, well, why would I want to go with all those Black folks, right? Because I've heard that before. So, it's like, and I've heard that also with Latinos. Well, why yo me voy a meter ahí con todo lo latino? They're like, what the fuck are we doing? Or people have been like, well, girl, you kind of passed. What are you doing to yourself? Like, go over to the other side, do it. But it's, so I've heard it, but it's also that part where we've been just criticized, put down in different ways, across the intersectionalities, and just loving ourselves. And I can see the love and I can feel the love, meeting you, having you here online, but also meeting you and seeing you the day we hugged each other, trying to find a seat because our feet hurt at that beautiful event. And I do want to ask you, what are some ancestral gifts you've leaned into to do the same work that you're doing and to be who you are?
Ooh, I think one of my gifts, like I said before, is storytelling, telling a good story, but also humor. Like, if I can make you laugh, I think I got you, right? And so being able to tap into storytelling, not making light of difficulty, but being able to be a light throughout difficulty, I think has been one of my gifts. And there was a point in time where people I am the emotional friend of my group, right? I will cry in a minute. If there is a commercial on TV that exhibits love and it touches me, I'm crying. And for so long, I was bullied about it. I was picked on. A lot of people stopped talking to me because I am emotional. But now that is one of my gifts, because I feel like every friend group needs somebody like me, right? That's going to hug you, that's going to love you, that's going to cry with you, that will pull up for you. I'll talk to my friends. Tell me somebody messing with you, who and where, because I'm coming for them. Try me if you want to. Try Jesus, not me, because I'm coming, right?
Yes, I love that.
But that is I feel like that is such a gift, because everybody cannot go there from an emotional state and still be able to see you through all of your flaws. So the relationships that I did mess up in, I realized where I could have done better. And one of those things was just being very intentional with how I feel, but being honest in how I feel and allowing myself to feel that and not holding it in. Because even as women, but more specifically women of color, we hold so much on our shoulders. We carry so much with us to where we become bitter, but it also takes a toll on us from a physical standpoint. And so I don't hold back my tears. So that is a gift for me, because usually when it happens, once again, people's guard goes down and they're ready to have a conversation and open up to me with open arms. And so those are some of those gifts that I've really, really been able to tap into and has helped me to go a long way.
I love that so much. Your storytelling, your humor, and your ability to feel your feelings, which has been so put down. And so the light is really bright where I am, as you could tell. Okay, yay, we're back. I'm like moving in the camera around. Yes, our sense of humor, your sense of humor and your lineage, your storytelling, and your ability to feel. And I think we've been shamed for that. Like, been shamed for that so much. But I am a crier myself. But I also feel that in order to really laugh hard, sometimes you have to cry hard. Like, it's a spectrum. You want to feel the joy, you feel the pain, you want to laugh, And so I love that so much. So, Hattie, where can people find you? Do you have an offering right now, or some sort of class or anything that you are or a way that people can reach out and book a time with you to talk to you about possibly working with you or bringing you on board to work with them?
Absolutely. So you can always find me on LinkedIn at Hattie B McCarter. I also have a website that I did myself, which I'm super, super proud of, right? It is mensolutionsllc.org. And I'm also on Instagram with Tea with Hattie B. But any form of professionalism, I'm always going to keep it on LinkedIn. Contact me via email. I'm a texter, so my cell phone is on my website. But if there's any type of speaking engagements, I really love putting together leadership curriculums. So I just did my first one for an organization out in Boston. And so anything dealing with that, I'm also trying to develop like some apparel. So what you see here is an equation that I developed. It's already trademarked I do a lot of teachings on racial battle fatigue. And so I don't know if you can see it, but the equation is your marginalized identities divided by your marginalized identities times the 4 levels of racism plus the 4 levels of microaggressions that equal to racial battle fatigue. So it's truly a conversation starter because my brain thinks in equations, right? It's building blocks for me. And so shout out to my best friend since the 7th grade. Her name is Mahogany Wilson. She is Mo's Craft. She makes all of my apparel. So please check her out as well. But that's where you can find me. I am literally an email and a phone call away.
I love that so much. Gracias. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
Folks that are here, me encanta, de nada. Folks that are listening, please follow Hattie, Tea with Hattie B. Follow her on LinkedIn. Bring her on board to talk to you, to speak to your group, to create leadership programs. And just remember something that you said, if you can capture somebody's heart. Mm-hmm. And I love how your company is called Mending, right? Mm-hmm. Mending. How do we mend what's been broken? How do we mend what's been torn? And boy, do we know that we need that right now. Así que let me know how you feel about this conversation. Follow her and remember to keep flowing, keep our hearts going, and to keep connecting and giving ourselves grace and giving other people grace. We're all going through it, and we're going through it differently. According to your equation, we're all going through it differently.
Absolutely.
Muchas gracias, everyone. Bye, Hattie.
Bye. See you later.